I look up and she turns to me like this, right? And for about a split second, for about 1 second, her face wasn't her face. Her face was just like this demonic, like a goat. Like the closest thing that it looked like was a goat, but it definitely wasn't a goat.
Just the face? The body was still
Yeah,
human?
it was just her. It was just right here. It was just a demon. She turned, and for 1 second, it was just, and then back to her head.
You guys, we are back. We took a little hiatus, but we are very much back. But you were gone, where'd you go? Ohio?
I'm in Michigan.
You're in Michigan. Why do I keep thinking it's Ohio, dude?
What is in Ohio?
Nothing. Middle of nowhere, except for, have you heard of Lost Lands?
No.
Okay, well, it's like a big headbanging like EDM festival, but that's like the only thing I know.
That's probably why I don't know it.
So, dude, have you ever had any experiences with demons?
Yeah. I've had a couple actually. I've been kind of reluctant to share it.
Why?
I don't know. I don't think your faith should be based off of like anecdotal evidence. You know what I mean?
Well, faith aside, we just want to like, because there's people out there that's like, oh, like God doesn't exist, like it's all a joke. It's like, okay, so if God doesn't exist, then Satan doesn't exist either, right? But there's proof now that Satan does exist. So if Satan does exist,
what's the proof?
I'd say like 15 years ago, I had a very like evidential experience with the beast with my little brother. Okay.
Really?
Then, it's actually really scary because back then I didn't believe any of that stuff. Like I was born and raised as a Christian, but I was hanging out with the wrong type of people. Like they all thought 666 was cool, Antichrist was cool, and I was just trying to fit in. So I'm like, okay, these are the popular kids in school, so I need to fit in. Every time I came back home, my brother kept on saying like, there's like a dark shadowy figure always behind you anytime you come back home. Because I used to live with my parents and my siblings back then, right?
He was talking about you though.
He was talking about me.
Wow.
He was afraid to tell me it, but when we went on vacation, he's like, Austin, like, I know you probably won't believe me, but I always see a dark figure following you anytime you come back home. And those are the days when like I did drugs every single day. I was not a good person.
Did he describe how it looked?
He just said it was like a very dark, ominous figure. And he said that not only that it follows me through the door, but when I'm making music in my room, there's like a dark figure just behind me, just like watching me. And back then I was making a lot of like, people think dubstep is demonic because it sounds kind of like gnarly, So it's like, I put one and one together. I'm like, oh, that's kind of scary, like I'm being watched. But I did not believe him because I'm like, this is a joke. You're joking. Granted, my little brother never lies. He's never lied to me. He's never done anything like that to me. So
you don't really lie ever, right?
No.
Yeah.
Only if I have to. Like for instance, like like if I'm talking to a really hot chick. Oh, do you think this dress makes me look fat? No. I'll lie in those things, But okay, going back. We were on vacation. He was trying to convince me. Okay, yeah. He was trying to convince me that there was like a satanic figure, like dark demon following me around, and I didn't believe him at all. And he just kept on telling me, he's like, Austin, like, whenever I ever lied to you, like, I'm being dead serious. Like, this is me being open about it. And then at one point, I finally believed him. I was like, okay, I believe you. Like, but I didn't tell him that. In my head, I was like, okay, I believe you, The minute I believed that in my own head, he was like, ow. I was like, what the is, what's wrong with you? And then he's like, is there something on my back? And I opened up his shirt, and there was a claw mark going down his whole back. What the heck? And that was not there before because right before that, we went to the swimming pool. I saw his back. There was no scratch marks whatsoever. This was right after we got out of the pool. And then I saw those. It was like a big claw on his back. The minute I knew he was telling the truth, and I didn't even say anything. In my head, I'm like, he's right. Then automatically, ow, big scratch mark on the back. And right after that, I was like, that's crazy. It was a crazy experience, bro. I was like, the minute I believed him, and I'm like, okay, like, I should like refocus my journey with Christ. And because back then I was not about God. I was very bitter about God. I was bitter about everything.
Yeah, and if he was able to get afflicted like that, then probably his faith wasn't that strong either.
Back then, his faith was actually pretty good. He knew how to speak tongue.
No, because, I mean, I don't really believe in tongues, but...
Oh, you don't?
No. But because he got scratched, because When you have the Holy Spirit in you, you're untouchable. Demons
Okay.
can't afflict you.
I always assumed that he got that claw mark because he kind of persuaded me to stray away from.
Yeah, I think that's what
demon, you know?
happened. I just think probably at the time his faith wasn't probably where it should have been. Because once you got the Holy Spirit, yeah, you're safe. That's pretty crazy though.
Even when you're trying to convince someone, like let's say Satan is trying to get a hold of you and someone steps into your life and saves you from that. Don't you think Satan would try to attack the person that's...
Oh, he'll try to attack you.
Yeah,
But as long as
yeah.
you have the Holy Spirit, you're safe. The way that the devil can get you is by making you doubt. And that's why he'll do things like shake something in the room, make noises, stuff like that to make you fearful. Okay, maybe God's not as powerful as I thought. And then once that thought enters your head, then things can get a little wishy-washy. But as long as you remain, steadfast in your faith, you can't lay a finger.
Would you put those two in correlation with paranormal activity then? Because you said like, oh, shake things up, make weird noises. Like, would you put paranormal activity like in hand with demonic presence / Satan?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that was my experience. How about you?
Well, how old were you when that happened?
I was still in high school, so this was probably like 17 years old.
Okay. My first paranormal experience, was probably the most normal one. It was kind of like what scissor lock is?
Like the wrestling move?
No. So like when people oftentimes like wake up in the middle of their sleep and they can't move, and they'll see like a demon in their bedroom or on top of their chest.
Isn't that when you're there's another word for that. It's like a sleep paralysis?
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
Okay, that's
Yeah. But like the whole experience is called scissor lock. I had that when I was awake. So I remember I was in high school too. I was probably a freshman or sophomore. And I remember I was watching Family Guy. And right while I was watching Family Guy, sure, I was a little sleepy, I guess, because I was like laying in bed, but I was completely awake. And all of a sudden, I remember my vision just going, like everything was just kind of like fuzzy. And then I heard right next to my ear a bunch of whispers like like that, right?
It sounds like you're Slytherin talking
Parcel tongue, yeah. I mean, that's kind of what it sounded like, and it was just so creepy. But then like I like snapped out of it. So that was like my first experience.
Were you completely like thrown off guard? Were you scared as hell, or were you just like
In the moment, but then
okay.
it was gone so quickly, and it never happened again. My second experience, I was hanging out with a bunch of buddies, and one of them I knew was going through a really tough time. And I was over at my friend's house, and I remember I was in the kitchen just washing something, and my friend was sitting on the couch, but the couch was like right in front of me, so I could see her. And I look up, and she turns to me like this, right? And for about a split second, for about 1 second, her face wasn't her face. Her face was just like this demonic, like a goat, like
the sheep, like the goat head that everyone's
yeah, but just like demonic though, you know what I mean? Like the closest thing that it looked like was a goat, but it definitely wasn't a goat.
Just the face, the body was still
Yeah,
human.
it was just her. It was just right here, was just a demon. For 1 second, it was just I don't even remember what we were talking about. I just got her attention. She turned, and for 1 second, it was just, and then back to her head, normal face. I was like, holy crap.
Was she religious?
No,
Did you tell her?
no, I didn't.
Yeah, because she probably think you're crazy or something, right?
Yeah, and I just didn't have the heart to tell her. But like, I'm pretty sure the crap that she was going through was partly like the enemy trying to keep her away from God, you know. And then the final experience, this actually happened before the demon face one, but it's more important to me, and it's the reason why I don't go to influencer events, or I'm very reluctant to go to. I remember I was at this Halloween influencer event, right? And let me set the stage. So it was in LA, and a whole bunch of influencers were there and all that. And I show up. I wasn't really feeling it from the beginning. I don't really like those types of events anyways. I'm not very extroverted. And so I just kind of found myself a corner, and I was just like relaxing. And then these two twins came in. I might even be giving away too much information, but these two twins walked in, and it was a Halloween party, so they were dressed scantily clad, revealing clothing and all that type of stuff.
Usual suspects.
But that wasn't, as soon as they walked in, I've never felt this before or seen it before. It was just dark wherever they went. Like, the whole room was lit up, lights, Halloween lights, disco ball. The whole room was lit up, right? But as soon as they walked in, it was like the gravity in the room.
Just pressure?
Just, and wherever they went, it was like, it was just darker. It was just dark. It was just like a shadow wherever they walked. And
wait, define that a little bit more. So when you say shadow, is it like a shadow covering their whole like body, or is it like the whole room becoming like that?
Like wherever they walked, about a 3 to 5 foot radius of wherever they were, it was just dark. And
I was just following that darkness
wherever they went. And so as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, I shouldn't be here. And I was like, wherever they are, I'm going to be on the opposite end of that room. And the funny enough, because we all had like random seating. There are like 8 tables, and then you're told to sit at a certain table. And those two twins sat at my table. And when they were talking to me, there was nothing off about them. They're like they looked or sounded demonic. They just sounded like regular people. But that pressure, I'll never forget it. And from then on, I was just like, oh, maybe God allowed me to see that type of stuff so that I never have to deal with that. Like, or so that I can learn that, like, oh, this stuff is real. And you got to be careful. That's why I live by this quote, take God wherever you go, and wherever you can't take him, don't go.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So from that point on, I've been super reluctant to go to any influencer event at all. Like, I was talking to this one influencer last week, actually. She was going through some online bullying and all that type of stuff. And she said the same thing. She was like, you seem pretty well connected, but I never see you at any of the influencer events. And I was like, there's a really good reason why I don't go to any of them. Yeah.
Were those the only 2 influencers that you saw that had that like pressure and like that darkness falling around, or did you see multiple people?
No, it was just those 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're starting to make me think. I'm like, dude, are most of these influencers like doing witchcraft, like selling their soul to the devil so they can become famous or something?
Yeah, I don't doubt that there's a lot of people that have done that, but I think most of the times people sell their souls at a discount.
Define that.
Like, instead of selling your soul to become, multimillionaire and rich and famous, I think most people are selling their souls because they get addicted to drugs. They get addicted to pornography. They get addicted to X, Y, or Z. They can't control their diet, and so their food is their master. Most people, I think, sell their souls at a discount.
Does this make sense why people would gravitate towards worshiping the devil to help them like sell their soul to the devil? Why can't they do the complete opposite and rely on God to make you become successful?
It's because it's much more difficult. Yeah. I mean, it's easy to get addicted to drugs. It's easy to get to not diet. We call it a narrow path for a reason. Yeah. Yeah. Most people think selling the souls is like you actually like talking to Satan, and then sign your name in blood or something.
Yeah, I
or
thought it was something like that.
It could be, but I think most often what people do is sell it at a discount. They don't even know that they're signing away their souls. It's just, oh, this is the easy way and I don't want to change. And so that's what I'm going to be doing.
That's scary, dude. And it's just such a sad world that we're living in too now, where people are like so hurt, traumatized, need something that they either don't have money or like, like something bad is going on to the point where they have to like, you know what? I'm just going to sell my soul to the devil. There's no point. But it just doesn't make sense. Like you want to live your whole life of eternity in hell for a very short-term lived experience here on earth. I don't know. It's just the way the risk to reward is definitely not worth it for me, bro. Like I don't know what some of these people are thinking, but the juice is not worth the squeeze, my man.
It reminds me of that quote by Milton. It's better to rule in hell than to serve in heaven. It's just the easy way out. Have you ever had an experience with an angel?
Not directly, but I do feel the presence of an angel always helping me on the side. Kind of just like anytime I'm like, just like the experience with you and your aunt, bro. Like it's just nuts how the timing of everything is just working so perfectly aligned, but never like directly experienced with an angel. I just know that there's presence of either an angel, God, or someone that's there by me, trying to like get me straight, trying to show me, like guide me towards the right direction.
There was one encounter that I had that I'm like 80% convinced that was an angel.
What happened?
So this was like 5 years ago, right? I was going through a really tough time, and I remember I was at a LA Fitness. It's closed now, but I would go to the jacuzzi, and I would just like after a workout, just relax in the jacuzzi, right? And in this jacuzzi, there was this black guy, and I wasn't really trying to socialize or anything, but he just starts talking to me, and he tells me, I have the voice of an angel. I was like, okay. I thought this guy was crazy.
Yeah, it sounds.
And he was like, you know what I think you should do? He was just giving me advice. He's like, you know what I think you should do? I was like, what? He said, I think from now on, every morning when you wake up, go to a mirror, look at yourself in the mirror, point to yourself and say, I love you, and I'm going to work on loving you better. And for some reason that stuck with me. And I actually started doing that. And it actually kind of changed my life and helped me so much. And it's like advice that I give to other people this day. Just
going in front of the mirror and telling yourself that I love you?
I love you, and I'm going to work on loving you better. That second part is really important. Especially for me, because I suck at loving myself. And I had to learn to love myself. And that was the catalyst for doing that. Now, the reason why I thought that was an angel isn't because of what he told me or because he said he had a voice of an angel. A couple of years later, I was just like, for some reason, I was just like curious as to people that had angelic encounters. And somehow I came to looking up if there were any commonalities with encounters with archangels. And there's this archangel Gabriel. I think it's Gabriel. But if you look it up, the most common description of the archangel Gabriel is a beautiful black man.
Interesting.
As soon as I read that, I was like, I don't know if it was him, but to me, that's how I'm going to take it.
Weird coincidence.
That's how I'm going to take it. That was my angelic encounter. And that was God giving me the extra little oomph that I needed to make the changes that he wanted.
That's crazy. What the heck? Now that I think of it, I do have an angelic moment, but I'm definitely not going to say it on here.
Why?
I just don't want to do it.
Okay. Well, tell me, and then you just get rid of it.
So before we end this podcast, we should recite our favorite Bible verses. Just one. What's your first favorite one? What's one that's like dead onto your head, like where it's your favorite one, where you like, if you had the opportunity, you tattoo it somewhere in your body, like to that point.
My brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials and tribulations of any kind, consider it pure joy, for you know that the testing of your faith produces endurance, and let endurance have its full effect on you, making you mature and complete in all that you are. And if any of you lack anything, ask the Lord, for he gives to all graciously and ungrudgingly, and it shall be given to you. But ask in faith, never in doubt, for the doubter is like a wave being driven and tossed by the wind. For the doubter is double-minded and must not expect to receive anything from the Lord. Let the lowly believer boast in being risen up, and the rich in being brought low, to disappear like a flower in the field. And the same shall be with the rich. The sun shall rise up, and with its scorching heat wither away the field. And that's James chapter 1.
That was so long. How the hell did you memorize all that?
I can recite the rest.
That's one verse?
No, that was a couple of verses.
Okay,
you just want one verse?
Yeah, just one verse to end the podcast. We should start doing that. Like every podcast, we end it with a verse that like stuck out to us this week. You know.
Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. I think. So that's from Matthew 5. It's called the Beatitudes, or often referred to as the roadmap to God. And as God's children, one of our responsibilities is to be the direct evidence of God. And so...
like be an example, right?
Yeah. And so when people are suffering, that's God giving. When you have someone suffering in your life, that's God giving you an opportunity to be the proof of God that person might need. And so that's why the blessed are those who mourn, meaning the blessed are those that suffer, because they will be comforted by their loved ones. And even though it sucks, the fact that you can go through that hell with someone makes it that much better. So the example that I give, when my grandparents passed, I had my aunt, and my aunt had me, and I firmly believe to this day, if that my aunt didn't have me, she'd be dead. But because we had each other, we were able to get through that hell together. And to this day, when we hang out, oftentimes that comes up, and how that sucks so bad, but because we had each other, it made it bearable, and proof of God for us through each other.
I love that, dude.
Yeah,
especially like knowing your aunt too now, so it's like I'm loving it. She still sends me all Bible verses like every day. I'm like, oh, this one's good. I always save like the ones that like resonate with me. I'm like, okay, put this into the notes, you know.
She tells me that the ones that you might feel conflicted by, you don't reply to.
Really? She told you that?
Yeah. Is that true?
It's a little bit true, yeah. Don't tell her that though. I'm like, I'm reading some of these verses. I'm like, I know what you're trying to do. I see what you're trying to put into my head. But I like these other ones better. I'm like pickpocketing which one I like.
That's so funny.
The Bible verse that resonates with me, man. I can do all things through him who gives me strength. Philippians 4:13. It's just anytime that you're feeling down, you feel like giving up, times are getting hard, I just recite that Bible verse and I'm like, okay, he's with me. I'm going to stick it through. I can do all this through him who gives me strength. So that's why I was like, damn, dude, when you were reciting that first one, I was like, I'm cooked. Because I was like, it was literally just like a 7-8 word verse, you know? So I'm like, and yours was like a whole full-on paragraph. I was like, damn, bro.
Well, we're called to write the words of God on our heart, you know, because it edifies us. And that reminds me of Psalms 23. That's probably the most famous psalm. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for thou art with me. Yeah, it goes hand in hand. Most people think, not most people, but there is one of the biggest shocks for newly converted Christians is that oftentimes when people convert, immediately their life becomes more difficult. And the reason why is because now that you're part of the kingdom, now that you're part of God's kingdom, the kingdom of heaven, what has to happen now is a purification. Kind of like in order to purify iron, you have to put it in the fire, you have to put it in the kindle. Or when the Israelites escaped slavery out of Egypt, they didn't just immediately go to the promised land. They had to wander the desert for 40 years and get rid of the generations that were looking back on the slavery in positivity. Get rid of that, purify that. And so oftentimes and I think you're kind of going through that right now, when you newly convert, God is going to put you through some trials to refine you so that you can now be prepared to receive the blessings that he has in store for you. Yeah.
That's a good reminder to always have, man. Seriously.
Yeah.
So next week we will be covering true crime.
Hailey Bieber.
And Hailey Bieber with the whole Justin Bieber thing. I'm pretty sure most of you guys know what's going on over here, but Reed has no idea what's going on, so I'm gonna lay down some of the cheese mayo on here. All right, you guys. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
Swag.